The world will never be the same. Avengers Endgame is shattering records across the globe.
Part of the journey is the end.
Be a part of cinematic history.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Avengers Endgame, now playing.
What is good, YouTube? Warstu here with a video on what Kevin Feige said on Reddit. So it's a rolling joke on this channel that you guys don't like the fact that I use Reddit sometimes for videos. But on this case, Mr. Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, did a Q&A, did a Ask Me Anything, at AMA, on Reddit. So yeah, Kevin Feige went to Reddit, which surprised a few people. Pretty interesting that he's not keeping his mouth shut about the MCU plans for the next 10 years. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the videos. We do videos like this all week long, and if you could subscribe, would be awesome. We're currently giving away a Marvel Legends Hasbro Infinity Gauntlet at the end of May. So all you got to do is subscribe to the channel and let me know down below what do you think about what Kevin Feige said on Reddit. So I'm going to go over the highlight of what he said, then we're going to go into a bit more detail about the various points that I think were pretty cool. So he said, the Disney and MCU shows will be woven totally and completely into the new movies, which is very interesting. They plan to adapt the Infinity Gauntlet comic not long after the release of the first Avengers back in 2012. Stan Lee did not get to see the final cut of Endgame before he passed away, but Marvel briefed him on the story points, which is pretty cool. Actor of the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, pitched numerous ideas for the Hulk, some of which led to what we've seen in Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War and Endgame. Feige does not like being filmed, but he can be seen as Weapon X technician covered in blood in the first X-Men movie, which, to be honest guys, I didn't even know that. He knows the truth about Captain America, and if he is the father of Peggy's kids and Winter Soldier, but he won't tell you. Interesting. So his team usually has a 5-year plan for the MCU, but there is generally less specific plans that extend much, much further. So essentially, he has plans for the MCU for the next 10 years. It is pretty cool. Now, this one here is very, very interesting. Of all the MCU actors, Feige had the hardest fight to cast Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. You can understand because of his I guess you could say his background before he came to the MCU. He had a lot of problems in life and he's turned his life around. It's very inspirational. And Feige loved Spider-Man in Spider-Verse, who doesn't a pretty cool movie. So that's the highlight reel of the Ask Me Anything highlights. So let's go into more specifics. So during a recent Reddit AMA, Feige simply said yes to a question when asked whether the studio planned to pick up open threats left after Iron Man 3 and the All Hail the King one-shot that established the continued existence of the Ten Rings, an international terrorist organization committed to basically destroying and taking over government. So the Mandarin, the real Mandarin, people weren't happy with the real Mandarin. So the fact they do have plans and he said yes, does that confirm the next Iron Man? Well, no, not really. It does not confirm the next Iron Man, but it could do, couldn't it? Really, it could. So the Mandarin is a classic Iron Man villain in the comics. The events of Avengers Endgame obviously makes the possibility of their appearance in a future Iron Man highly unlikely, but there's no telling what kind of activities the Mandarin and the Ten Rings got into in the 5 years between Thanos' finger snap and his defeat in Endgame. The Earth became a total different, more dangerous place when half the universe was wiped out. The sort of place that a master like the Mandarin might thrive in. The Mandarin is still an important figure in an organized crime circle, but the true source of his powers is literally 10 rings on each finger, deriving from alien technology that give him loads of cool superpowers. The MCU was a drastically different place when the Mandarin first appeared, but it wasn't real Iron Man, was it? In Iron Man 3, it wasn't the real Mandarin, and they're going to have to do a soft retcon. A proper Mandarin's power will come to fruition in a later MCU movie. that Kevin Feige confirmed. He went on to say, we don't usually work with the specific plan for 5 years at any given point, but generally they have a massive plan. So a lot of people are saying, new Iron Man, the Mandarin's coming. No, this doesn't really confirm it. Now, it makes more sense for me if they were to drop the Mandarin in a movie like Shang Chi, which is coming out really soon. It's going to be the first Asian, I guess you say, martial arts movie. Now, it would make sense to me if they retcon that backstory and made the Mandarin Shang-Chi's father. Now, he could be the villain for that movie, potentially. It would make a lot of sense. It would make a lot of validity. Now, I do understand that a lot of people were unhappy with the Mandarin or the fake Mandarin that was in Iron Man 3. A lot of people felt like for such an iconic comic book character that Marvel really did butcher that character. Now, a lot of people seem to think the MCU and Kevin Feige and the guys over at Marvel Studios can't miss. Now, let's be honest, guys. Not every movie Marvel has made has been good. Let's just look at The Incredible Hulk. Iron Man 3 was not the best, was it? The villain absolutely sucked. So it is pretty cool that Marvel are open to bring past characters back, past villains back, and give them another shot in the open MCU. As we know, Phase 4 is going to be very, very different. But the fact that Kevin Feige said the Mandarin could be coming back is interesting. We know that Spider-Man Far From Home's in it. So we know there's going to be a street level side of it, which would be your Shang-Chi and that kind of stuff, your Black Widow prequel movie and all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a cosmic side, which will be your Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, your Thor, your Captain Marvel. That will be your cosmic side. Although Phase 4 is going to be going cosmic, they are going to have to keep characters like Spider-Man, Shang-Chi grounded and not cosmic. Yes, there can be some crazy powers like the 10 rings, if that will be involved, that essentially give them some pretty badass powers. Not quite Infinity Stone level powers, but each ring on each finger gives him a different power that is sourced from an alien, I guess you say, spaceship kind of powers. That's where his powers come from. I don't know if you've read the comics, but it is very fascinating that Kevin Feige opened up on Reddit. Of all websites to open up, he said, Reddit, we know that Marvel Studios' next projects include the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, a Black Widow solo movie, The Eternals, Shang-Chi. They're the first ones post-Endgame, and obviously the real first one post-Endgame will be Spider-Man Far From Home, which I presume is just going to be a soft realization of how Marvel Studios will be going forward. So there's a lot of eyes on this movie. Although Spider-Man Far From Home isn't Phase 4, it's going to show you what Marvel movies will look like post-Endgame. They're going to be completely different. There's no Captain America anymore. There's no Iron Man anymore. Although there was Thor, it's a completely different variation of Thor that we actually got. We got Fat Thor, which was pretty much a joke that became so much of a joke that they had to retcon that idea at the end of the movie by giving him his superpowers back, and then he gets the Viking beard back. So what is interesting is this 10 rings for the Mandarin would be pretty cool. Each ring is completely different. There is Lightning, there's the Liar, there's Zero, there's Nightbringer, there's Spin. So they're all completely different, and essentially any villain to go up against him or any hero to go up against the Mandarin with the 10 rings would really suffer. And it's such a shame that Iron Man never got to go up against the real Mandarin. Now, there was that movie the short movie they released where essentially the real Mandarin found out about the fake person pretending to be the Mandarin, and he wasn't too happy with him. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they do retcon it and the Mandarin is retconned because of a legal issue they have of a character for the Shang-Chi movie that we believe on the channel they're not allowed to use. So they could just make the Mandarin Shang-Chi's father, who essentially could be the villain for that movie. Not a lot is actually known about that movie at the moment, which is pretty cool, but we do know it's going to be the first Asian martial arts MCU movie ever, which realistically could be pretty good. Because if you look at the fact that the Karate Kid movies, the Jackie Chan movies, of how popular they were, just imagine that in the MCU with loads of MCU characters and it being in like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and it introducing the martial arts aspect of the MCU, which is going to be pretty cool. And it's going to be a very unique and different movie, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more casting notices about that movie, and it is going to be pretty cool. So overall, Mr. Kevin Feige didn't really say that much, considering it was a 1.5 hour Q&A that he did and Ask Me Anything Q&A question on Reddit. But it is cool that he has said there is plans past 10 years. They are open to use previous villains, previous characters back in the MCU, which is very fascinating. And as for, is there going to be another Iron Man? Only time can tell. I'm pretty sure there will be, but at the same time, Robert Downey Jr. is definitely done. He will not be Iron Man again, in my opinion. But maybe because the Mandarin's biggest foe, I guess you could say, is Iron Man, potentially, if this is the plan for the next 5 years, they'd have to bring in a new Iron Man, and it realistically couldn't be his daughter because Morgan Stark's too young. I know in a deleted credit scene, Catherine Langford was supposed to play an older Morgan Stark in the future, essentially, but it's going to have to be a completely different Iron Man, maybe even Ironheart. It's going to be very interesting to see which way they go with this, and I'm really surprised that Mr. Kevin Feige decided to use this verified Reddit page in order to do this Q&A, which is kind of interesting. So, like always, guys, let me know everything down below. Let me know what you think Kevin Feige really meant by the Mandarin coming back, and what he meant by Iron Man being the hardest person to cast, which is pretty interesting. So like always, guys, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I will catch you in another video very soon. Catch ya later.